What is the fascination? I mean, you know, when we look at it, the fascination of people not wanting to read what the church has always said is the Word of God and trying to find something else that perhaps tastes better or heap to their itching ears something that sounds a little smoother.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that there. But if we could maybe, you know, sort of move back toward hopefully the central aspect that I know Sam and I want to communicate this evening, especially since I'm really depressed that tomorrow night I have to try to survive without the Assyrian Encyclopedia with me. It's going to be tough. I don't know how to handle this. But I wanted to make sure that especially our Islamic viewers understand something. I start off the program showing you software, showing you my Stephanus Greek text here, and talking about the fact that it lists variations between handwritten manuscripts. Whenever a book is transmitted via means of handwritten manuscript, there are going to be textual variants between them. We are not copy machines. And if you require perfect copying, then God could not have given his word till 1949, because that's when the photocopier was invented. It was 1949.
I see.
What you need to understand is many Muslims have been taught that there is no copying error in the history of the Quran. Now, I think, Sam, are you gonna run through Uthman for us in a little while?
Well, if you want to, Dr. Wright, feel free. Doesn't matter, either you or me.
Well, I wanted to show everybody something, and maybe you can play off of this. And I think you've seen this. It might be difficult for you, but I'll try to explain it. What I'm showing on the screen. If we could put the slide that I have on my computer on the screen, what I want to show you is the difference between the modern Arabic text and the text of what's called the Fogg's palimpsest manuscript at Surah 2, 222. Now, you have the two texts there in a line on the screen. And the Fogg's palimpsest manuscript, let me explain what that is to you before I show you the differences between the two. The Fogg's palimpsest, you need to remember that manuscripts in the ancient world, if they were really good manuscripts, were made on animal skin, very, very thin. Codex Sinaiticus, for example, is written on parchment, but it's actually leather, but it's like 3/1000ths of an inch thick. And so it has the consistency of fine parchment. But it's very long-lasting. But since it's made of animal leather, you could actually wipe the ink off and write something else over it. And we found many works of antiquity, because it would take a lot of effort and money to make that kind of animal skin and things like that. We found a number of manuscripts in the ancient world that are called palimpsests. A palimpsest is a manuscript where the original has been washed off and something new written over it. Well, we have found palimpsest manuscripts of the Quran. And we can read what was originally there using ultraviolet light, because when you would use like a quill or something like that, it would actually mark the surface of the leather so that you can see what the original writing was, even once the ink has been washed away. And so what we have in this graphic is the current edition of the Quran, which we would call the Uthmanic revision. And we have Fogg's palimpsest manuscript, which contains a number of the readings of the man that Muhammad said, if you want to know the Quran, go to this man. His name was Ibn Masud. And the palimpsest manuscript gives us evidence of the fact that Ibn Masud's readings continued in the history of the Quran for quite some time. Let's look back at it here on the screen. These are not just minor changes. Those of you who can read Arabic will notice that there are entire transitions of where the word appears in the sentence. There's differing grammatical terminations, differing opening words that are found here in the comparison of these two texts. Now, that's not an example of the kind of textual variation that is normative in the New Testament at all. What you have here is editing. What you have here is the purposeful attempt to remove the influence of Ibn Masud from the text of the Quran. And I believe we would have many more examples of this if, A, there was more money in the field to do the type of study that needs to be done, and B, if there was something like what we have today. We have a couple of different groups that are not only photographing all the ancient New Testament manuscripts and things like that, but collating all this information together. That's slowly happening, but there's a lot of resistance to it. But I think we'd have a whole lot more evidence of that kind of editing. The early tafsir literature, the very early tafsir literature, pre-Bukhari tafsir literature, makes reference to many differences in the readings of the Quran. And many of these trace back to both Ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b and the sources that come from them. And so I wanted to show that to you so you could see on the screen that when we talk about the fact that the Quran has a history in its own transmission, that we are still in the infancy of our examination of even the information we have to even start down the road to get toward where we already are in New Testament studies.
Yeah.
And we as Christians are wide open about this, and yet the large majority of Muslims with whom I speak immediately say, no, could never have happened, there's never been a difference, there's never been a variant, even when you can show them in their own documents. Well, there it is right in front of you. What do you do with that?
Well, what about Shabir Ali, for example? I mean, do you present him with such arguments? Or?
We've never debated the Quran.
I see.
I would be very, very interested in how he would respond to this, and I hope to have that opportunity. Shabir's finishing up his PhD in Quranic studies, so it would be a perfect, when he's done, it would be a perfect time to get Dr. Ali to discuss some of these things. I think, given where Shabir studies, that he would be hard-pressed to deny the fact that there has existed textual variation and that the early tafsir literature does demonstrate that the early Muslims were not embarrassed by this, and that it's only the later formulations of how the Quran came together that cause a problem with that. What do you think, Sam?
100% on the money. There's not much I can add. I mean, this is a topic all by itself, and Lord willing, we'll try to devote an entire episode or two documenting the variant readings of the Quran. But what you said is 100% on the money. It's not just the manuscript that you presented on screen, but it's also found in the traditions attributed to Muhammad and his companions, the hadith collection, like Bukhari, Muslim. It's well documented in the hadith literature, so no Muslim can deny that.
And there are...
Oh, but Muslims deny it all the time, don't they?
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you present them the evidence, some of them will say, well, that, you know, the hadiths are weak. It's become common among Muslims to throw their scholars and their sources under the bus. In fact, Shabir Ali is showing evidence of doing the same thing. In his debate with Jay Smith on Islam, Christianity, which is the religion of peace, he pretty much admits that most of the Muslim scholars interpreted specific passages to encourage and promote offensive jihad. However, he pretty much threw them under the bus and said that was their opinion, that's their view, and you know but that's not the Quran. So it seems like slowly he's heading towards a Quran-only position, because for a Sunni to say that Bukhari is questionable or Muslim is questionable, that's shocking, that's earth-shattering. You're no longer a Sunni when you do that.
Brother Sam and Dr. White, there are, let our viewers know, there are extant works by Muslims in the modern age that have documented the different variants in the Quran.
That's just, you have to be careful when you say they document. Yes, they do, but their explanation is simple. They'll tell you that Muhammad himself said, according to a narration. This is why I said we need to at least devote 1 or 2 episodes to the topic, because it's very broad. But the Muslims, the reason why early Muslims were not embarrassed by the variant readings is because there was a tradition attributed to Muhammad where Muhammad said that the Quran was revealed in 7 ahruf. Singular for ahruf is harf. What in the world does that mean? Till this day, the Muslim scholars don't know. Muslim scholars have come up with over 35 explanations of what Muhammad meant, and yet Muslims still cannot agree what exactly did Muhammad mean.